Today we're talking about Monster Hunter slaying Resident Evil in sales, Borderlands 4 boss goes off on fans, and we've got some next-gen Call of Duty rumors you won't want to miss. Stick around for all that and more. Welcome, friends, to this week's episode of Good Playing With You, your weekly gaming news roundup. I'm Dan Whitehill, and as always, I'm joined by my trusted tag team of Matts, Matt Lord.
Hey, how's it going?
And Matthew Moulding.
Hey now, tag team.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great stories. Let's jump straight into the headlines of the week. First up, Monster Hunter released this week with some high Metacritc scores, but those weren't only the good numbers for the franchise. Moulding, you had the first story.
Yeah, so this one is close to my heart this week, as I have been mainlining Monster Hunter Wilds. The game is now the fastest selling Capcom game ever, selling 8 million copies in just 3 days. I pulled this one from Paul Tassi at Forbes. Monster Hunter Wilds, of course, my buddy. Monster Hunter Wilds is a massive critical and audience success for Capcom, and now we have some numbers to quantify that. Capcom has revealed that Monster Hunter Wilds is the fastest selling Capcom game in the history of the company, selling 8 million copies in just 3 days. For comparison, the previous title holder was Resident Evil 4 Remake, selling only 3 million copies in 2 days.
Wow.
Monster Hunter Wilds is a Game of the Year contender with a 90 score on Metacritic and has performed phenomenally on Steam as the 5th most concurrently played in Steam history shortly after launch. On PS5, the game surpasses Fortnite and is now the number one game on that console. The Xbox chart is much slower to register new games, but a huge debut is expected there once it shows up. So, with all of the hype and everything, are you two jabronis gonna finally pull the trigger and try this game out? It is really good.
Dan?
Silence. Just utter silence.
I have not, I'm still on the fence. I see so many people playing it. Like, my Steam friends list is full of people. The PS friends list is full of people. But I fall victim to internet chatter. And I just feel like I see people kind of giving it a mixed bag.
Thank you. That was going to be my answer. I was going to let you answer, and then that's what I was going to say. I was like, Moulding, we're dying to know, as the jabroni sitting on the fence, should we be jumping in? Because I've heard that the game story is too short, that it's too easy, and so it's making me a little bit nervous when people are comparing it to the first one that was so big, and now they're kind of bagging on this one. What's the story?
Yeah, what is?
Well, I'll do a full review. I'm hoping this week I'm going to do my full review for it. Hopefully I can get that down. But this is going to be the crux of it. What Elden Ring is to FromSoft Soulsborne games, this game is to Monster Hunter games. And by that, I mean, this is the easiest, most accessible version of Monster Hunter of any of that I've played. So, Dan, you are currently trying to play the easiest version of Soulsborne games by playing Elden Ring. That is the same situation as this. Everything's been pared down for good or for bad. It depends on what you on your preferences. So lots of things are much easier, lots of quality of life things. The monsters are, now I don't know if the monsters are easier because I'm better at the game and have had more practice since I played the first one, or if they're easier because they're just easier. I think they're easier just because they're easier. But story-wise, no one that plays Monster Hunter for the story. That is not why you play this game. The story is the most coherent thing of all the Monster Hunter games. It's the one that makes the most sense, but it's still like kind of out there to throw a lot of the same words around. It's a lot of like a lot of incursions of monsters into other habitats. It's a lot of that kind of stuff, but this is the game to jump into that if you were going to play Monster Hunter games.
Let me ask you this, Malding. Do you have to play with other people, or can you play solo?
Absolutely not. I play almost completely solo. I played the majority of the game completely solo. I love jumping in and helping people out, especially when I'm playing the hunting horn, because that is all about playing with a party. So,
how easy is that to do? Do you just jump in randomly, or how does that work?
It is so simple. It is just the easiest it's been to, like 2 button presses, and you're joining someone's game. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
And that probably has a lot to do with how many people are playing right now, and it's crossplay. So you're playing with PC, you're playing with PlayStation, Xbox. I don't know if it's on the Switch, but you'd be playing with them too.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, hey, it sounds fun. Yeah. And I just saw a cool video today of a gentleman getting it to run on the Steam Deck. It looks literally like Switch graphics, but it works.
Wow.
They're saying it actually runs on the Steam Deck, which is kind of intriguing to me, because a handheld Monster Hunter is like, that's near and dear to me. So that could be potentially a way to take it on the go,
to get you into the game. I see it. Well, it's definitely a game to watch. But another game to watch on the horizon is Borderlands 4, which recently hit a little bit of controversy today. Lord, you have the story.
Yeah. So this is kind of wild. So this comes from Eurogamer's Victoria Kennedy. And so Borderlands 4 boss hits back at fan negativity, saying if you take developers' passion for granted, we'll all pay the price. So, whoa. Yikes. Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford has... Wait, I need to put on my glasses real quick. I need to do a little bit of reading. So let me...
Okay, Grandpa.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. I'm like, wait, I can't see. Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford has reacted to online negativity regarding the upcoming Borderlands 4. Stating, if you take developers' passion for granted, we'll all pay the price. Pitchford's words come as part of an exchange on social media with influencer Gathalion, who also serves as audience director for publisher Midwest Games, and kicked off after Gathalion claimed Pitchford had muted a fan for raising some very valid concerns.
Was it Dan?
Yeah, it probably was Dan. Seriously, Dan, you gotta lay off this guy. He's at his limit about the next entry in the Borderlands series. His critique came from a place of love, Gathalion wrote. As will mine. Please reconsider. Do better. Make a great Borderlands, and when your longest lasting, biggest supporters give feedback and worries, especially respectively, digest it gracefully. Pitchford, however, did not take warmly to Gathalion's comments and said the aforementioned mild takes were not a critique, but a shitty negativity that was demotivating for the Borderlands 4 team. And this is in quotes as well. Want the best Borderlands? Root for us and cheer us on. If you take developers' passion for granted, we'll all pay the price, Pitchford replied, adding he appreciates criticism and has never been in short supply of it. Don't gaslight me on this post, the Gearbox exec closed. It wasn't criticism. It was pessimism. It's toxic for people killing themselves for your entertainment. So F that noise. So pretty wild. This is, in my opinion, kind of like to me, it's kind of like, it sounds like a threat a little bit. Like he's like going in, he's like, you're going to be critical of our, artwork. To me, it sounds like they're just going to kind of like purposely botch the game or something. Like, what is he going to do about this?
I know exactly what this is.
This
is someone who knows the game isn't revolutionary. This is someone who knows the game is the same as the other games that he's put out. So he's super defensive about it.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right. This is making me a little bit nervous too because of that. But that's the way that Randy Pitchford is. I mean, we have to look back at his history. He's always been combative. He's always been a little bit of, of a troublemaker over there and hasn't made a lot of friends. He's had controversy courted for years and decades. And I don't want to bring it all up, but it's on his Wikipedia where it talks about, having pornographic films on a USB drive, and fighting with the lawyer and going back and forth, and then slamming one of the performers against the wall in the GDC conference. Like
this is at Gearbox. He was doing these things. This
is
saying he had. Yes. Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's a wild card, and he has been a wild card for quite some time. And I don't mean to bring up old allegations, but it does speak to the kind of, wild card that he is. So when he goes off on fans, I think, you can read into it. And I think, Molding, you're spot on. But at the same time, he's always been a hothead. He's very passionate about what he does. But you got to look at the man's history, and it's not a great one.
Yeah.
So on that article, what was the person's criticism? I didn't even catch what it was that set him off.
They didn't mention it. They didn't mention it in the article.
Oh, but so we don't even know.
We don't even know. But the guy.
Then I feel kind of bad, because if we don't know what the person says, we only know what his response is.
He says it's mild. Yeah, I mean, they were saying, his critique came from a place of love. This is the Gathalion gentleman writing in response, and so
great name for a Pokemon, by the way.
Gathalion, I know, I agree. It's an interesting back and forth. I mean, sometimes I feel like I completely get that you just if you are getting criticism and it just feels like you're being attacked, but that is always where if you're if you're but if you're in a leadership role like that, you definitely need to be the one to take a beat and not lose your cool, because everybody at Gearbox is going to feel that tension, and maybe they're dude, what's wrong with our boss?
You're representing the game,
right?
You've got to be careful, especially in this run up to the release. You've got to be super kind and careful. I mean, just think about the number of times we get told to F off on a weekly basis, and
all
for the most
we're nobodies.
I know, we're nobodies, and we try and be nice. You know what I mean? So, and he's actually got something to lose.
It was at a conference, or maybe the last E3. What was the game where the dude stood up? I think it was, where he stood up and people were angry about it being a mobile game. And he was like, what? You guys don't have phones? And he gave it back to the audience, and people did not like that.
That was that Blizzard, Diablo,
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Diablo. Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Yep.
Yeah. And he was like, what? You guys don't have phones? And I'm like, that is not how you deal with it.
No, that is going to haunt that gentleman's life forever. It's weird. I would like to know the criticism, but I feel like it's pretty much like the same usual Twitter back and forths. I don't think it should be, no matter what though. I feel like if you can't critique a game without having the director come at you, it's it just seems weird to me. Everything about
it all depends on what that critique was. It's really hard to judge. If the critique was I think your whole family should die, then I understand his reaction to that. But
I agreed.
The next beat in this story will play out when Microsoft does their full look at the show, and that's hasn't been announced yet, but we are expecting. They said they were going to do one full kind of deep dive into the game, and so that we'll know what we're dealing with here, and fingers crossed that's something amazing, and suddenly the narrative changes, and we forget about this little kerfluffle, and we move on all excited about the game, because I'd love to be excited about that game, for sure.
Yep.
Another thing we don't exactly have a date for is the next Call of Duty, but we know, of course, one is coming around the bend. But now I've got some delicious rumors about the next Call of Duty, and that's Call of Duty 2026. And this is coming from Eddie Merkuch at GameSpot. It says Call of Duty 2026 could drop last-gen systems and make other big changes. A reliable insider has revealed supposed new details on the Call of Duty game coming in 2026, and it sounds like the title could be a notable one for many reasons. According to the Ghost of Hope, who has accurately leaked previous information about the Call of Duty series, 2026's Call of Duty game is Modern Warfare 4 from Infinity Ward and a network of other Activision studios, and this would be a sequel to 2023's Modern Warfare 3. The leaker claims that Call of Duty 2026 will not be available on PS4 and Xbox One, so they're officially making the leap to current gen. They also mentioned how the Call of Duty developers engine is being overhauled to address a variety of issues, including visual clutter. The Ghost of Hope went on to say that Call of Duty 2026 is being developed currently on dev kits for the next Xbox. So that's a little bit wild because, it's only 2025 now, and most people were assuming 2028, but this seems a little bit early, or maybe they're just trying to make sure that it's compatible. We'll have to wait and see. The article continues to say this wouldn't be too big of a surprise as Microsoft has already announced plans for the new Xbox, and with the Call of Duty being one of Microsoft's flagship franchises, it makes sense that the company would want its developers to work on the new technology early on. There's no word yet on when the next Xbox could arrive, but the same leaker said the next Xbox could launch in as early as 2026 with this new Call of Duty game. Lastly, the leaker said that a lot is riding on the upcoming Call of Duty Warzone mask, Verdansk. This was the original Warzone map released in 2020, and Activision is bringing it back later this year to seemingly try and tap into the nostalgia and find success like Fortnite did with Fortnite OG. If the arrival of this map fails to retain existing players and or bring in lapsed players, there will be no Warzone 3, the insider said. So a lot of Call of Duty stuff to talk about here, gentlemen. First off, what are your reactions, Lord?
Oh, well, there's a lot to digest here. Where do we even start? Do we start from the top? Is it the next?
Do we think this is real? And then
yeah, I feel like we've had some
calls.
I feel like yeah, I mean, I think it's accurate. I mean, the Verdansk situation seems totally legit. The biggest thing I'm surprised about is the 2026 Xbox situation. That is that's insane. Like, what? I'm wondering though. The first thing that came to my mind is I'm wondering if maybe they're working on that handheld.
That
and they're
bingo.
making that.
That's exactly. Yes. I'm like, this can't be the next generation yet because we're not expecting that till 2027 at the earliest 2028. Yeah. Although the Xbox 360 was released a year earlier than PlayStation 3, and that leg up led to them leading in the generation, although they didn't win in the end, and really putting the 360 on the map. Besides a host of great games that really helped them, but I do think you're correct, Lord. I think that's the handheld year, the 2026, and having this run flawlessly on it is a key part of that strategy.
Yeah. And I think it'd be great. I would jump back into Call of Duty in a heartbeat, going back to Verdansk. I love that map. That is what got me through the pandemic, going through that. So I feel like if you tap into that pandemic nostalgia, like you're really
just in time for bird flu.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, all right, I guess we're going back to back in Verdansk. So yeah, it seems really exciting. I'll be checking it out, but I'm just wondering about that console. That is so nuts. Like, I don't know. So yeah, what do you think, Molly?
Yeah, what's your take?
Oh my gosh, where to start? So Call of Duty, yes, it's a perennial. It's going to be the exact same. I wonder how much AI they're going to be using on it. I'm curious of the studios if ChatGPT was one of the studios that they're going to be employing with it. Yeah. I mean, the rumors are so hard to talk about because who knows if any of this is true. It would be crazy, I think, if Microsoft put out a brand new console next year. It would be Christmas of next year, I think, if they do it. So I completely agree with you guys that if they're talking about a new console, it's got to be that handheld, which I still think is a huge mistake on Xbox part. But yeah, I mean, more Call of Duty's more Call of Duty. That Verdansk map, are people really, other than Lord, clamoring to go back to those maps? I played them 5 years apart, and they're all the same. It's all like gritty, war-torn, middle or European country-esque sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
there was something about that
map.
Yeah, good? I think so. There was the flow of that map worked. Trust me, I played many Warzone maps, and there was always a fun time to be had there. I feel like the map really was a solid. Like, you could tell they put some time into that. And then I didn't even like, it's about time we're not putting these games on last gen. Like, geez Louise. Like,
I know.
Like, that was the big part. That was the big thing that I had to comment on, is that last gen stuff. I really do feel holds back stuff that I want to play, like holds back the people that buy these consoles day one. I'm still playing games that are being made for Xbox One from like 6 years ago, so that they can be played on those systems. No, I need them to progress a little bit.
Yeah, and that could be like the kickstart of when other developers stop producing for the end.
I think everyone will start producing for this current generation right after GTA 6 launches, because that will guarantee that everyone who's a real video game player has a current gen console.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's safe to go current gen after GTA.
Interesting. That's a good little milestone marker situation.
Yeah, I'm so ready for it because it's going to be great. Hopefully,
keep on waiting. To 2026 is when it's going to happen. It'll come out at the same time as this new handheld.
Seriously.
It could. And it'll be interesting to see if we're even able to buy it on physical media now that Trump's tariffs are starting to kick in. Market's starting to get a little worried. And I know, Lord, you had a story for us on this.
Oh, yes, of course. So this comes from Kotaku's Zach Sweezen. We couldn't have another show without a Zach Sweezen.
Yeah, not a show without Zach Sweezen.
One of the 24 journalists left in the industry. So new tariffs could lead to fewer physical games and higher digital prices. Oof. So, wow, I know. That to me is a shocker. So President Donald Trump's recently I need my glasses on again.
Oh, Gramps.
I know. I'm like, I can't see again. So President Donald Trump's recently imposed tariffs on Mexico, China, and Canada could potentially lead to higher game and console prices, fewer physical releases, and supply shortages, according to some industry analysts. As reported by Ars Technica on March 5th, Circana analyst Matt Piscatella, there we go, recently posted on social media that it wouldn't surprise him to see physical games that would be subject to tariffs to simply not be made, and that publishers might move to an all-digital strategy to avoid those tariffs. Currently, most video game discs are produced in Mexico, so whatever game discs are still printed and shipped out will likely cost more to buy due to a largely activated 25% tariff. Remember, publishers and other companies are going to pass the cost of tariffs on to customers. What a mess, added Pescatella. And if you're thinking, well, I'll just buy games digitally to avoid price increases, that might not be possible. As pointed out by Pescatella last year, publishers would either raise prices on digital games to reach parity with the higher cost of physical games, or as mentioned already, simply give up entirely on producing and selling discs. Either option is bad. It also comes at a time when the future of physical media looks bleak. So, interesting stuff. And also with the Switch 2 around the corner, I was thinking, oh man, imagine a world where the Switch 2 doesn't have physical games. That is one system that I need to have games. And I did a little research because a lot of the carts are made in Japan. The carts are made in Japan, so those won't get impacted on said tariffs, but almost all of the packaging and special editions and et cetera, those go through other countries that will have tariffs. And so all the packaging and all the other stuff will still get that price increase. So the Switch 2 games could be at a loss in this situation as well. And I'm just like, a Switch without physical media to me is like a deal breaker. So I don't know if we're going towards an all digital future and the Switch 2 gets hit with it. I don't know. I think I would. I don't know. It just makes me very nervous for the future of that system if it were to go all digital, because I need those physical copies in my hand. What do you think, Dan? I know
I'm chomping at the bit here because you've got to remember, looking back, I've got a billion things to say, but like looking back at the launch of the Switch 1, they had a similar problem. It was that physical media, the cards that Nintendo was forcing developers to use and print their games on, those little micro SD cards, cost more, of course, than digital. And so there was a physical tax when Nintendo Switch launched, and it only lasted for maybe, I would say, 6 months, where publishers would raise the price of the physical thing and say, well, Nintendo's forcing us to raise the prices because they're forcing us to use these cards. And Nintendo squashed that really quickly and got them in line. And so everything was in parity. So there's definitely a concern, I think, from publishers on the bottom line, but also there's a concern from Nintendo to keep things in parity, and they were able to squash it with the launch of the Switch One. Now, the Switch 2 is going to be a little bit interesting because we're all getting a little bit of whiplash here with the Trump tariffs because yes, sometimes they go into effect, sometimes they don't go into effect, sometimes they have phone calls with Mexico and then things get delayed. Sometimes they carve out niches that say, okay, like Canada, because of the auto industry, we're not going to charge you 25% on steel. We're going to do like a 10%. So, I know the ESA has already reached out to them. We reported on that. So a carve out could be made here. But then on the other hand, so that's one like optimistic Dan. And the pessimistic Dan is like, this is the thing that all companies will use to raise the price of video games because they have wanted to for such a long time. Even though they're making hand over fist in digital, they are greedy and they are concerned about their bottom line. And so they are going to raise the prices and they're going to write it off as tariffs. But really, tariffs will come and go. Things will happen politically, but those prices are going to stay high and they're going to be yanking us and calling it a tariff. So we're screwed. That's essentially what it sounds like to me. Moulding, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. If there's any excuse for any corporation to raise prices, they will do it, whether it's the case or not. So if they're going to say, yes, it's because these tariffs, we have to raise prices, and they're going to raise them whether the tariffs are the reason for the price increase or not. I think today or yesterday, Trump rolled back the Mexico tariffs until next month. So, it's I can't even imagine trying to be someone in business with these like imports, exports, trying to wrap their head around like what's going to happen and trying to budget what they need to do. Like, it's just a crazy mess.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what kind of like, oh, sorry, Moulding. I didn't mean to.
No. And I was just saying, as for the death of physical media, I think it's going to happen no matter what. I don't think that there's anything that we can do. There might be like special editions that you're going to pay a premium price to have a physical version of. But I think the days of a game publisher putting it all out on physical, no matter what, are gone. As we've seen through you, Lord, with Kingdom Come 2, trying to find that, and then the Warhammer game that you were trying to locate before, and that's before any of this has even happened. So I think it's one foot in the grave.
I think so. It's this is really going to be the final nail in the coffin. If this is what's going to end up happening, it's just big all digital is just over there licking their lips and just going to say, all right, this is going to be the end of physical media right now. Like, it makes perfect sense. Like, it's just aligning. And it was interesting, like the little bit about it, the packaging and everything. It was like a little anecdotal situation of a one of the devs that works for a Nintendo company. It's slipping my mind right now, but he was saying about how they are having to scramble after making the games in Japan, and then all the packaging, like those pipelines are so scrambled right now that it's just complete chaos. So I can only imagine like having to deal with that in real time. So it's an interesting one. I'm just hoping. I mean, for me, I can't imagine a world without physical media. It's just so sad to me that this is really becoming more and more of a reality. So it's a bummer. It's bummer news. It really is.
Cry into your big pillow, because that's the way it's going to be happening.
Yeah.
I think it's gone.
For sure. Oof. Well, we do know that potentially one of the games that will be coming out this year is Gears of War Collection. That's supposed to be a surprise, and it's also coming out for PS5 this year. E-Day potentially releasing in 2026. This is a report from George Yang at GameSpot, and I thought this was interesting. Let me read the article, and then I want to get your take. According to Leaker Extras, Microsoft is reportedly going to reveal Gears of War collection during the upcoming Xbox Games Showcase in June. While the exact games in the rumored collection are unknown, it's likely going to be at least to include the first 3, although the spin-off Gears of War Judgment could be part of the package too. The leaker doesn't have any information about that or the Nintendo Switch 2 port that could be in play. Gears of War E-Day was reportedly aiming for a 2025 release, but much like Fable, it's now apparently slipped into next year. Microsoft is reportedly having the Gears of War collection fill the release calendar for this year, as E-Day isn't ready for launch yet. However, the leaker said that there's a slim chance that it could still make it out the door in 2025, depending on the production schedule. So, with this announcement of Gears of War going to PS5 and its collection potentially dropping this summer in a surprise announcement, what do you guys think? Is this something that's going to happen eventually? Is it going to happen this summer? Do we believe this guy? What's your reaction?
Part of the death knell of Microsoft. They're going to become a publisher before, in the next 20 years, they're no longer going to have consoles, and they're going to be a video game publisher. This is just I think the first step in it, and great. I am a broken record. More games able for more people to play everywhere is a good thing. So it's just not a good thing for Microsoft as a company, as a
library.
Company. Yeah,
because I know that
my library. Like
we play
a lot of my stuff
Xbox.
is digital. Yep, and a lot of it is Xbox. So I'm gonna be stuck on my old systems to play these games. But things move on, and that's just what happens.
You might be singing a different tune if the PS5 ends up delaying the collection molding. Could you imagine?
Well, I'm not a huge Game of War. I'm not a huge Gears of War fan, so this is not a game that excites me at all. So
Gears is the titties. It's so good.
It is Titty City. I'll back you up on that.
Titty City. It's so good. I'm just really excited to finally, like, why did it take so long to get a freaking collection for this thing? This is, in my opinion, a few years overdue. This probably should have happened at the beginning of the cycle of the series consoles. But I'm really excited. Like, I think this is 100% true. Like, this doesn't seem very this doesn't seem very like
I'd be shocked if any game from now on is exclusive to Xbox. I think they're just going to put everything out.
And I mean, it'll be weird seeing the game on PS5, but that won't. I feel like there's so many people that just have Gears already synonymous with the Xbox system that they're gonna gravitate towards this system. Like, for me, I would be like, it would feel very blasphemous to just go and pick it up for the PS5. Like, I would pick it up for the Xbox, and I'd be super stoked to get back in there. Like, I'm really hoping the online multiplayer is in effect, because I feel because the multiplayer is low key one of the best. Like, it was so fun. So I can't wait to jump back in those lobbies.
It's all about doing the roadie run, then rolling, popping up, and shooting people with a shotgun.
It's so fun. It was the best. Like, that was a really good time. Like, I honestly feel like Gears multiplayer was like comparable to Halo for me. Like, I had a real good time. I played a lot of that. I agree,
but the Gears multiplayer just didn't innovate. It just kept doing the same thing over and over, and that's where it kind of lost its luster. 1, 2, 3 phenomenal games, and then Judgment was pretty good, and then it's like, okay, 4, 5, like, you're like, okay, but it's just more of the same. I think it is a boon for PlayStation 5 players. If they have not played it, they are going to love the shit out of it. It is a great time. I'm an Xbox player mainly. I burned out of it, but it is, I think it's a bad move on Xbox part, but a great move for PlayStation players.
Yeah, for sure.
So during my next game drought, should I go back and try to play those games? Is there something I'm missing?
With you. It is funny.
Okay.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
And you will know the sting of the badge system, and like there's one that's called FIFO, which means first in, first out, and that means you get murdered right away. Let's just say
that'll be me. I'll get that
FIFOs.
one.
I have a few FIFOs in my day, and
Me
I'm like,
too. Oh man, so good. And I mean, I thought the stories, well, definitely because the first three were I think I played a little bit of the fourth one, but the first three, like some of those moments in the first two were like really cool because that co-op was really like, I thought pretty amazing.
Yeah. Oh, and then there was a character arc story thing. I'm not going to spoil in 3 in case there are PlayStation players out there. You're welcome. Where my buddy and I had to like pause it, and we were just like, "Whoa, that just happened. That's crazy!" You know, it was amazing.
Oh, it's
good
great.
Memories.
So
good memories.
Excited.
Yeah, excited for them. Horrified for my future on Xbox.
Yeah.
Well, Neil Druckmann says there may not be a third Last of Us, which also is a little strange for the future of PlayStation.
This one was mine. Kenneth Shepard from Kotaku has this story. Yeah, Neil Druckmann says, don't bet on The Last of Us Part 3. The director says that fans should be prepared for the possibility that the post-apocalyptic series might be over. We're about a month away from Season 2 of The Last of Us premiering on Max, and Neil Druckmann is doing interviews to promote its return. Naturally, those conversations end up drifting over to the future of the video game series that started it all. That's to be expected, but what was surprising is that Druckmann is claiming that the Last of Us games might be over. In an interview with Variety, Druckmann was asked about the possibility of The Last of Us Part 3. Previously, he had been open about the possibility of a third game. Now, however, he seems to be changing his tune. Quote, I was waiting for this question, Druckmann says, sighing when asked by Variety. Now, why are you sighing? Of course, the question's going to come. Don't be a dick. I guess the only thing I would say is that don't bet on there being more The Last of Us. This could be it, unquote. The Last of Us has been so lucrative for Sony and now Max. Do you think this will remain true? Lord, what do you think? Do you think this is a true story?
No, I don't know. Why is this guy lying?
Like, because of the money. He wants Sony to open up their pocketbook and be like, ching, ching, brother, because they're making good cash off of HBO. They're making good cash off these remasters and sales and all these 57 editions. He wants the cheddar. That's what he's talking about here.
I mean,
now I asked Lord the answer.
I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't know, but I couldn't know. Sorry.
I mean, I know, Dan, I get what you're saying, but they already remastered Last of Us 2 on the PS5. Like, that would make sense then, but they already did the remasters. Like, and so the only thing is, like Dan, I know you love the second one, so of course you got to be waiting for a part 3, and you feel like they've left the door open for another iteration, right?
So I haven't. I mean, I'm still.
Are you trying?
Don't spoil me on the ending of this.
All I can
eventually
say
I'll get to it.
Look, Star Wars, did it really need to continue on with those movies? I don't know, but it did because it made money. Was it good? I don't think so. But then all the series, like, people seem happy with them. But why is this all happening? It's because there's money to be made there. This is only the beginning. This franchise is just getting started. They can do 57 spin-offs and different games and multiplayers. Okay, that one didn't work out, but I'm telling you, there will be more of The Last of Us. I highly doubt that this is the end of it. He's waiting for a payday. There's so much story waiting to be told. Will it be good? Probably not, because Last of Us 2 is the peak. But money's to be made.
I think they do a prequel. Let's make a speculation. I think they go back and probably do a lead up to the outbreak and give you more of almost like a Days Gone. I could see it being like that a little bit, tell the story that way.
I'd like to see the story, as someone who only played the first one, I'd like to see the story of that time in between his daughter getting killed at the very beginning of the first one to the time jump. Does that ever come into play in any of the other games? So
nope,
that would be, because he has like this dark past, right, where he did a lot of bad things with his
works
brother.
For crazy people.
Let's see that and play that.
Yeah,
there's cool. a lot of life in this Undead series, and I think each game that they make, they get 2 games out of it. So of course they're gonna keep doing it because they got that game and then they got the remaster in a year. Yeah. So
what do you think, Dan? What's it gonna be?
Yep, tons more, and ching ching, and Sony will say, "Yep, we're ready to pony you." Sony will pony. That's what I'm saying.
Prequel, middle story, after story, more Ellie, more Joel.
All of the above. I think yes. Malding's right. There will be a prequel. I think there will be an after story, and they need to spin the franchise off. They have a town there with a bunch of people, and I think that there's a lot of stories that could be told from other people happening in there. I think we will find out, similar to Ellie, that there are other people that are immune to the virus. There's so much more that they can do. So
do The Walking Dead. Give us a Last of Us in like Germany or something.
Yep.
What Walking Dead does. I mean, there's so much stuff that they can do. They're not ending it.
No. All right, we need to hop into our topics of the week. But before we do, real quickly, I wanted to touch on the biggest new release of the week, Split Fiction. It hits 91 on Metacritc, and it's got a lot of really good reviews. This might not been on your radar. This was Joseph Ferris's follow-up to the game of the year, It Takes Two. It's co-op focused, but if you buy one copy, so for like $45, or I think it's $50, then your friend can play for free. And it's a whole co-op game, very similar to It Takes Two, but this time it's 2 writers and inside their stories, and it's called Split Fiction. Huge reviews coming out this weekend. Either one of you playing it? What are your thoughts?
No, it's not a game for me. The co-op, strict co-op game is not a one for me. Friend of the show, Chad Consomo, very excited to play with his husband. He posted about it on Twitter, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago. So I'm happy for him, and I'm happy for everyone who gets to play it, but no.
Yeah, I didn't get to play It Takes Two, so I feel like this is going to fall in the same category.
You got to make Ro or Audrey.
I know. Once Ro gets a little older, that's going to be it.
There
I'll play
you
with
go.
her.
That's the deal.
Because Audrey, I don't know. Audrey's like not gonna, unfortunately, can't get her to game with me no matter what, unless they come out maybe like a Real Housewives game that I get.
Maybe Netflix needs to do that Emily in Paris game.
Oh yes, dude. See, you're right. We need to get that fired up. Speaking of which, I actually played some of those Netflix games on the Steam Deck, and they worked super well through the browser on the Steam Deck. It was awesome. So just saying, that is a possibility.
Well, I might not check the game out. It depends. I've got a lot of other stuff to do, although I loved the crap out of It Takes Two. The story was awful and physically painful, but the gameplay really was Game of the Year worthy, and it was some of the best co-oping I've done in I don't know how long. The only drawback I think here is that it jumped to Game Pass really quickly, and some people, like myself, felt a little bit burned that I had paid for full price, and then just only, 6 months or so later, it was on Game Pass, so that makes me a little gun shy to pull the trigger on this one. But the nice price of $45 with the EA discount on Xbox is kind of attractive, and I'm like, a couple tickets to a movie is the same price, so it does kind of and I'll get much more time out of it, so I'll keep you guys posted on whether I jump in or not.
That was like the original Veilguard going, it's on PS Plus. Jeez.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to mention. Yeah. Just like a month later, it's free.
That's wild.
Crazy.
All right, let's hop into the listener emails of the week. All right, first up, Molding, I think you had a first question.
Yes. So we are talking about if there are any games you went into reluctantly, expecting them to be bad, expecting to hate them, but they turned out to be, you loved them. So I'll start off with one of my examples. I did not expect to like Dead by Daylight. It was an all online co-op game where you had to protect your friends. I am not into that sort of thing at all. As Dad knows, I'm a lone wolf. I like to go off on my own, do some sniping. So I did
you
not
snipe your buddies.
Sometimes you accidentally shoot them in the back of the head. Yes, that happens, especially if friendly fire is on. But so Dead by Daylight, I did not expect to enjoy. Tried it out on a whim. Thank you, Game Pass. And it turned out to be, during the pandemic, I played it all the time and absolutely fell in love with the game. I still think it's a really fun game that you can jump back into. And I could then scratch my solo player itch when I played Killer to be able to do that. So I got the best of both worlds. I got to do a little co-op with my buddies, a little solo action with Killer, and that was just a game I was not expecting to enjoy, but loved. Lord, what about you?
Yeah. Well, this one really, the first game that I had cooked up, I felt like it was a no-brainer for me. It was Overwatch. When my friends said they're going to jump into this game, Overwatch 1, I want to specify. They said, we're jumping into this new hero shooter. Like, come on. And I'm like, this game? Like, this thing is silly. This is a silly game. And turns out I mean, I'm still hooked to this day. I mean, still playing Overwatch 2. I know Marvels is coming out and Overwatch 2 caught a lot of flack, deservedly so if you ask me. But I love Overwatch. I feel like it just is one of those games that it seems so out of my wheelhouse. There's something about just being a hero shooter. It's kind of cartoony. But man, when you go in and you have a good team, you are actually doing some impressive plays and people are rooting on your impressive plays, it just feels good. Like that game will give you such a dopamine rush. You can't get it from anywhere else, I feel like. So that one was a very big surprise. I thought I was going to just be trashing on the game, but whew, when
Overwatch is good, it is great. But when it is bad, it is miserable to play.
No, trust me, there's some roller coasters. I want to specify that, but it usually oh man, when those super high highs are incredible. It's so fun.
Agreed. Dan, how about you?
I think my first pick would be that the game Journey to the Savage Planet. Have either one of you played that one?
Yeah, a little bit. Game Pass again. Yeah, thank you.
Exactly. This was something I was bored. I was on Game Pass. I was like, this is a weird game. I like being astronauts though. And it was published by, I think, CD Projekt Red, but it was developed by them. It was an independent developer. And it has the weirdest sense of humor with these people, little aliens that like fart and you have to grab things and scan things. And then they've got full motion video and they've got it's just the strangest game. And at first I had no idea what I was getting into. And I was just, scanning things. And then all of a sudden, I start getting these small power-ups as they do. And the next thing you know, you're slinging around the world and doing all this sort of stuff. But I just hadn't heard anything about this thing. And it blindsided me. It came out of nowhere. I was like, oh my gosh, this is really fun. It actually turns out that it's co-op too. So I played it probably twice and I look forward to playing it at least one more time because Revenge of the Savage Planet is coming day one to Xbox Game Pass when it releases this summer. So if you haven't heard of this game at all, don't worry. You can play the sequel, which looks even better, coming out on Game Pass day one.
Oh, nice.
Sounds like we're advertising Game Pass on this episode. Because my second one is also a Game Pass game, but Vampire Survivors. I can't stand Bulletstorm games. I think there's nothing less fun than that sort of game. So I picked this up because it got huge hype like 2 years ago, I think is when it came out. Huge hype on it. Everyone was talking about it. I didn't care. Came out on Game Pass, gave it a try, and I think I played it nonstop for like 3 days. Like it really, there was that combination of the Bulletstorm, which ended up being fun, and then kind of a roguelite situation where you're unlocking new powers and new weapons. I really loved it and ended up enjoying.
Okay, did you have a main though? Because I'm going to be honest with you, I was lazy AF, and I was just garlic the whole time. And
garlic is the one that gave you the shield, right?
Yes.
That ended up being, it was garlic and. Oh gosh, now I can't remember. But garlic was always whips. I think a garlic whip combo always worked out really well.
Wait, did you guys use Gag Ball or no?
in my personal life. I'd like to use one on Dan, but other than that, no, I don't think
so. No, I'm the same way. The garlic with like the gas cloud, well, that was the key. But you're right. That was such a like. How did they make it different from the usual like bullet hell games? It was pretty fun. I
felt like I was progressing. I didn't feel like I was playing the same thing. I felt like I was always on the verge of unlocking something new, unlocking a new weapon, something like that. So there was that progression made it different than like the other ones that
Well, jumping into my second game, I think just Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 was just a surprise to me all around. But the game that actually surprised me the most was the game within the game. And you guys know I'm pretty critical of those. But the dice game in that game is so much fun. Where you are
part 2?
It's the same game in part 2. And I've been playing. I played so much of that dice game. And I'm like I said, I'm like, I want to play the game. I'm not here to play any other games, but this game, whenever you have the chance to like face off a person at like the pub, I always do it. I'm like, I'm ready to play some of this dice game. It is so much fun just rolling those. And it's I like how simple it is. It's really just like getting matches of the same dice or like trying to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's super simple. I just think it's like, and for some reason it's just very addicting. It's a great time. I'm really surprised by that one. And because I hate all other like mini games in a game, I hate to say it, but this one was a big surprise.
Nice.
I think I have no idea what that one is.
I know. And I love a game within a game, so I'm all over that. That was a good recommendation for me. I think my last one, though, is Borderlands 1. I think when I first started playing video games, I had such a negative mindset of I only like this. I only like the realistic style. I only like shooters. I only like this, that, the other. And then a friend came over, friend of the pod, Brendan, for Thanksgiving, and we had nothing to do. And he was like, "Oh, well, I got this game, like Borderlands." From where I'm like, "Well, it's so
That's
ugly."
A spot-on Brendan impression. So good job with that. I'm just kidding, Brendan.
And I'm like, "Man, the cell shading's so ugly, but let's play it or whatever." And we played it for a little bit. And we're like, yeah, it's pretty good. And then I remember it was right around the time when we killed Nine Toes, one of the first bosses. For some reason, it clicked and the world opens up. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is great. And the two of us went so crazy for this game. We were lucky because the Game of the Year edition was already out and on sale that we went and bought that version of the game so we could get all of the DLC. And I think we played pretty much that for like the next 3 months. So Borderlands 3 definitely was a huge surprise for me.
Oh, nice.
So good. I think I know when that clicked where you're just like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm in.
And it's like, don't judge a book by a cover situation too, because I didn't like the cell shade. I like it now, but back then I was just so like, oh, it has to be the most realistic looking graphics. And then something about that fun gameplay just sucked me in and hasn't let go yet.
Gameplay means a lot. Like that's the key to a lot of this stuff is we're willing to look past a lot of things if the gameplay is there.
Well, that pretty much wraps up everything we've got for this week. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you're listening on a podcast, please tell your mom and 3 other people. And on behalf of Matthew Moulding, Matt Lord, and myself, Dan Whitehill, thanks for joining us. And as always, good playing with you.
Good playing with you.
Good playing with you.